All right, welcome in. We are back. It is indeed Bears Nation podcast. And for the second time this year, on October 23rd, the Bears have a win that we can talk about on a Monday. For, again, the second time this year, the first time on a Monday following a Sunday game at home since 2022. Over a year. Love it. Love to be here. But the Bears did beat the Las Vegas Raiders, as some of us correctly predicted, because
I'm gonna stop predicting games.
I mean, I said that, the Bears would be really dumb and lose and win this game, because of course they would. And the Vegas Raiders, there goes with the mic, because the Vegas Raiders are very bad. And turns out that was the case. Big performances from Deonta Foreman, big performance from Jalen Johnson, 6. Interception day, his first interception last season. I think the first pick 6 of his career, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So really big day, a couple of big individual performances, and of course, as always, the quarterback is what we have to talk about.
It's pretty much the whole episode, isn't it? It's pretty much the whole episode.
Yeah, probably, because as we have to talk about Tyson Bagent and the Bagency, who leads you to a win in his first career NFL start, the undrafted D2 rookie who was formerly playing at Shepherd University in West Virginia, now comes to the NFL and picks up a win in his first start. And now we are going to get into the controversy.
No.
Online about, not here, because I'm very open. We've talked about this. We've been very clear about our stance on this, that Justin Fields is the better quarterback. Good for Tyson Bagent, but he's not going to be not going to be your long-term answer, your long-term solution as a Bears fan at quarterback. But still going to talk about it. I mean, I've already seen some tweets today about how long Bagent should be starting for, and if he should be the starter even when Fields is healthy, and That's not going to be the case. But still, good for him. Really awesome to see. Really awesome story. And the Bears win the game. And here we are. And now you have 6 days until Sunday Night Football against the Chargers and Justin Herbert, which you might win that game too, because the Chargers are a mess and they stink. But yeah, victory Monday. Haven't had one in a while.
I hadn't had one coming off a home game, like you said. It feels good. Let's preface the Tyson Bagent conversation with this. Unbelievable story. Like, we can acknowledge this.
100%.
Just the D2 quarterback, all odds stacked against him, comes in first game. Yes, terrible opponent, but Max Crosby's on the other side. We talked about the way the Raiders could have exploited Bagent in many ways. A little bit of credit to the coaching staff for tailoring to his strengths. Obviously, it's a frustration that they didn't do those things for Justin Fields, but they do them for Tyson Bagent. But nonetheless, the bottom line for at least the most of the conversation should be directed towards, this is an incredible story. It's unlikely it's sustainable, but recognize that for now, that he is an inspiration. I put this on my Instagram story. Like, any athlete that's playing D2 division football has a different perspective on their career because of Tyson Bagent. Maybe whether it's reasonable or not. I mean, most D2 players should probably recognize the fact that they're not going to get drafted, but it opens up that possibility. He didn't get drafted, right? But get to the NFL, get signed, right? It opens up that possibility for a lot of players and a lot of guys who are in high school and just a younger generation of athletes. Like, this is a significant moment for those, and just that inspiration is unbelievable. And I'm extremely happy for Tyson Bagent for all those reasons. Now let's get into what this means for the future of the Bears franchise. I've been seeing it happened. We knew it would happen. There's too much already about, is there quarterback controversy? If Justin Fields is healthy, should Bagent still be the quarterback? Guys, we can't do this. It's an objectively outrageous conversation. It is outrageous. Sure, did Bagent manage the game well? Did they design a game plan well around him that he executed? Yes. But you watch the throws, man. There is a significant lack of arm strength, obviously, because he was an undrafted rookie from D2 Shepherd and all these things, of course. But that arm strength isn't going to change. That athleticism isn't going to change. And he's a decent athlete, but he's obviously not a Justin Fields type athlete. We cannot start the narrative that there is a controversy between Fields and Bagent, that Bagent is a viable long-term solution. We are so far away from that. That should be the last thing you're talking about, because that is never going to happen. And again, these are, and the reason I preface this whole conversation with what I said is because this is not anything against Bagent. It's not. This is not knocking him. This is a recognition that he played well on Sunday, but that he is not the long-term solution, and the Bears would be dumb if they came to that conclusion. And tied in with all of this, right, Jake, is the exact things that I said on the preview episode about my fears about what this could lead to. Was it good the Bears got a win yesterday and found something in Tyson Bagent? Yes, there's nothing bad about finding something in Tyson Bagent, right? If he becomes a career-long backup for the Bears, who, if you have a guy, if Justin, say that Justin Fields is a quarterback for the next 5 years, whatever you like, that's a guy who's prone to injury. Say it's Caleb Williams, a guy who's probably also a little bit prone to injury just because they're mobile. If you have a guy in Tyson Bagent just waiting in the wings, available to win you football games, if your starter is going to miss 3 or 4 for the next 5 years, that's a great thing. But the fears that I had about the Bears maybe winning this game and Tyson Bagent playing well is it made the coaching staff look really good. It made the coaching staff look really, really good, right? You had him give out the game balls after the game, and everybody feels like they're on the same page, and the game plan was designed well for Tyson Bagent, and they got to win at home, and they're 2-5, and morale is good, and hey, look what we did with this kid. And I think the fear that I had that they can now use is we go to those exit interviews week 18, after week 18 on Monday after the season ends, you go into Ryan Pohl's office, you look at the record, whether it's 5 or 6 wins now or 4, whatever it may be at this point, you say, well, hey, come on, Tyson Bagent, the odds were stacked against him. No one gave him a shot. He won his first game. We designed a game plan. We let this kid do it, and we won the game. And I am more fearful than ever that they're going to keep this coaching staff around. I literally 5 days ago, I was still of the belief that they get fired for the Chargers game, still of the belief that they would not be here. That has almost taken a 180 for me, because we know how this franchise runs. We know how this organization runs. And yes, I'm still happy they won the game, but that win, I think, is more significant than you think for how it influences the decisions that front office will have to make at the end of the season.
I still am not there yet, because the season doesn't end today. There's still 10 games left in the season for you that you could go 0-10 or 1-9. I mean, it's like I said last week. I don't think if you only win 2 or 3 or 4 games on the season, I don't think that in that exit interview, you can point to this one singular game and say, this is why I should keep my job. This is why we should all keep our jobs, because of this one game against a terrible football team and the Las Vegas Raiders at home. And I said this last week too, we've seen this backup quarterback that nobody's heard of, nobody's seen, comes in, provides a spark.
Right.
Other team doesn't know how to game plan for him. And then immediately now there's tape on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and Brandon Staley might be an idiot, but like the Chargers are still an objectively better team than the Bears.
Good defense.
Now that there's tape on on Bagent, like the Bears are not the Chiefs. Yes, the Chargers just got lit up by Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. The Bears don't have anything close to Patrick Mahomes on their roster. I like Cole Kmet. He's not anywhere close to Travis Kelce.
I mean, 0 catches yesterday.
So, like that, you think that the Chiefs now aren't going to be ready for Chargers? 72 rushes from Deonta Foreman?
Yeah.
Like, you think they're not going to be prepared for that? No, there's tape now. Like, now the book is out. It's your secret is exposed now. So, and back to spinning it forward, you can't go into exit interviews. Let's say you only win 4 games this season. Let's say you win 2 more games. You're not going to go and say, yeah, but that game against the Raiders, okay, what happened after that?
Yeah.
Oh, you beat the Vikings, let's say, and the Cardinals.
And I'm more so just talking about a week-to-week basis, right? Like if you were to do a meter, like the meter after this, we don't know what's going to happen.
I think they're good, and I said this last week. I think they're good for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
now.
that's
just because of the extenuating circumstances, things out of their control. I think they're good for the season, and we know that the Bears are predisposed to not fire coaches within the season anyway. So now they have an excuse not to. So back to what I was saying, though, as far as exit interviews go, like, even if you do say like, oh yeah, but that Vegas game, like you said, we made a game plan and we stuck to it and it worked. Okay, what happened in all the other games? Why couldn't you do that for, as somebody said in the chat, why can't you do that for the best quarterback on the roster? Why can't you make the most out of the talent around you when you're starting quarterback, who's one of the most dynamic athletes in the league, when he's healthy? Well, how come, where's the disconnect there? And then you get fired. So I still don't think this team wins more than two more games. I think you beat the Panthers. I think you beat the Cardinals, and that's probably it. Like, maybe the Vikings sell off, but probably not.
No, they're not going to sell off.
So, I mean, I don't see where the rest of the wins are coming from.
Sure.
That, you know, and I know like any given Sunday and things can get wacky, things can get weird, but I'm just saying, like, I just don't see where there's more than 2 wins for the team. You get to the end of the year. Okay, who did you beat? All right, you beat the Raiders. Great. They are terrible. All right, you beat the Panthers. Likely going to have the number 1 overall pick and be winless. Okay, great. All right, you beat the Cardinals. Cool. They also are going to be in the top 3 of the draft again. Great. And then also you blew it to the Broncos, and also you blew it to a Packers team that might be very terrible. So in the opening game of the year, after you had all this hype, you blew it to the Packers, which they might be bad. So I just don't think that no matter what happens, I'm not seeing where the wins are coming from, and therefore I don't think this coaching staff is going to be able to stick around. They're going to have no ground to stand on.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, hey, honestly, like all my optimism aside, you know, I obviously think the Bears had the potential to win more games when Justin Fields is in there and all yada, yada, yada. I predicted them to win 10 games this year, right? Because I thought things would go well, you know, for Justin Fields.
8,
yeah,
so
and look,
I was right
again,
there with you.
Not outrageous, right? And we're starting to sort of see some of the things come together that we expected to come together at the beginning of the year, and more so on the defensive side of the ball. Like, if the defense continues to be the 5th best defense in the NFL against the run from a yardage per game standpoint, and you really start to figure things out defensively, you're going to win more games. I mean, think about all, like, the stat that stands out. I believe this is the number, but like, before the Bears beat the Commanders on that 14-game losing streak, or whatever it was, I think I got it to 15 before then. Who even remembers? But
it was a long losing streak.
They were allowing, I believe, 35 points per game
something
in that streak, like something outrageous. Whereas, like, if you cut that down to like 24, even, they would have won like 6 or 7 games in that span, right? Like, if you start to play better defense, you're going to win more games. And then again, in turn, that's going to make the quarterback look better and the team look better. What I said last week was the impact of a win on a quarterback's performance makes it look so much better. And that's exactly what I said would happen in this game. Like, if the Bears, like Tyson Bagent, I knew he was going to throw for like 150 yards, maybe a touchdown or something.
Our expectations
Nothing crazy.
were low. We knew that they were going to run the ball.
But if they won the game, it would look so much better. And I cited Jordan Love in those first 3 weeks because that's exactly the same situation. And now the Packers are a completely different team. But if you put Tyson Bagent's performance in a vacuum and then put Justin Fields with the same stats, but when Justin Fields played the game, the defense allowed 34 points, but when Tyson Bagent played the game, the defense allowed 12 points, then yeah, in a vacuum, like, their stats are the same. But when you look at everything around it, one player has a loss, the other player has a win. Obviously, Bagent's performance is going to look better because they came out with the victorious and they're giving out game balls and everyone's happy and the Soldier Field's right? Like, that's just how these things work. So I think that is sort of leading to the overreactions that people are creating at this moment. And it's just like, guys, what did you see in that game from Tyson Bagent? Like, did he do anything that Justin Fields couldn't do? Right? Like, what was asked from him in that game? And then I know we're going back to this conversation, but it's necessary to have because it is frustrating. Like, when you saw who put it in the chat? Shane McCoy, right? It would be nice if Getsy could build an offense around the best QB on the roster. Like, it's frustrating because you saw a game plan that was designed perfectly for what Tyson Bagent brings to the table. Right? Like, he's seen a lot of football in his life. Maybe he does get the ball out quick, but he obviously doesn't have the arm strength. I think he probably had, one pass beyond 10 yards, and that was the sideline throw to DJ Moore. One pass beyond 10 yards. The other was screen plays, get the ball in Deonta Foreman's hands. Like, they designed a game plan that worked for him. And we haven't seen them do that aside from a couple times this year for Justin Fields. And that's really, really, really frustrating to recognize that. Like, if you can do it for this D2 quarterback who has significant limitations, but you can't do it for Justin Fields, who provides literally everything you would want, like, has so many possibilities for plays that you can run. Like,
so here's what I would say to that then. That could further be an indictment on the coaching staff, though, because you can handle a game plan for Tyson Bagent because it's so bare minimum. You have so much less to consider. Whereas Fields is such a better athlete, can do so much more, and it's beyond the capacity of the coaching staff. Like, they just aren't good enough coaches to be able to utilize those talents, those skills that Justin Fields brings to the table. So if I'm looking at it that way, like that's a further indictment on them.
Wow.
Oh, okay. You can make a game plan for the bare bones down to the studs minimum, and studs being like, studs of a wall, not studs on a roster, obviously, but like bare minimum, completely tear it all down to the studs, basest bare bones offense you can against, again, in the context matter, against a terrible Raiders team. And then when you get Justin Fields, who can run and throw deep and do all these different things, but you can't make a game plan for him because it's outside of what you're capable of, that's more of an indictment on you then. So I think that's one way that you maybe have to look at it. Oh, like that coaching staff might be in their offices like, oh man, it's a good thing we got Bagent because there's like 5 things that we can do with him. Yeah. Whereas Fields, it might be 50 and they just don't know how. So that's how I'm looking at it, is that this coaching staff is just so inept that Fields might have all these skills, all these talents. They just legitimately, Kevin, don't know how to utilize it. And they need somebody like a Tyson Bagent where they can say, all right, good, we're going to hand it off 40 times and we're going to not throw farther than 10 yards because we know that's all you can do, but also it's all we're capable of as well.
Right. And I think I think I never looked at it that way, but now that you're kind of saying that, I think you're right. It sort of is an indictment. And it's like, maybe it feels like what we saw on Sunday is the offense that they've wanted to run, like the offense that they don't want, like, it's almost like they want a game manager who can just throw balls to the flat and
the
like
blandest,
that might win you a game against the Raiders. That's
Sure.
not getting you anywhere else in the NFL.
Correct.
Look around the league. Like, even if people want to cite the San Francisco 49ers, like, that's just a completely different situation because of the players they have on their roster, and they still find a way to create explosive plays like that. Not the same. Do not compare those two, please. But yes, frustrating. And I mean, I hope Justin plays this week. We don't know, right? We don't know the extent of this injury. It's probably unlikely. But if I'm Roger Goodell, I'm on that fucking phone with Ryan Poles. I'm saying, you better inject that man with whatever you can. Get that finger ready to play. Because we don't want Tyson Bagent. There's a storyline there.
Right. Now they might. But if he's likable.
He's likable. There's a storyline, and they probably have a field day with videos and whatnot. But in reality, like you're saying, when we do a preview episode on Wednesday, the odds of Tyson Bagent playing really, really well playing exciting football for Sunday Night Football against the Chargers are extremely
low. To be fair,
low.
though, the Sunday night games this year haven't been great anyway.
Last night was decent, but
yeah, yesterday was good.
They have been
up
bad.
To this point.
They haven't been. The bar is low.
Yes.
But there's more narratives around Justin Fields and Justin Herbert and the Justin's matchup and you 2 explosive young quarterbacks in the NFL. And Justin's got a lot to prove.
If Justin Fields plays, you also get if he struggles, they gonna put Bagent in?
Yeah, right. If he throws a pick, panda Bagent on the sideline, which is ridiculous, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we've sort of rested our case here on how we approach the Bagent situation. I keep saying Bagent, it's Bagent. I keep approaching the Bagent situation. I know,
and I'm going to continue to say both.
But I know there's going to be people in my mentions and in like you guys are wrong. Like this guy's the future. All this, no. And again, I'm not rooting against Tyson Bagent.
Sure,
that's not the case here. It's just he's just not a solution. He's just not. The ceiling isn't high enough for him to be the solution for the long-term franchise quarterback, to be your Brock Purdy, to be your Tom Brady, to be your Kurt Warner and all these. Not probably. It's not going to happen.
It's within the realm of possibility still.
It's not in the current situation, the Chicago Bears. Because what you're saying, Jake, is that for that to happen, either 2 things could happen. They're going to have a top 5 pick in the draft. It might not be their pick at this point, but the Carolina Panthers will result in the top 5 pick. So what you're saying
right now, you still have the 2 of the top 3 picks.
What you're saying is right as of right now, but it's likely that it's not likely, but it's possible that the Bears move out of the top 5 if they win a couple more games this year, and then the Panthers
probably still in the top 10 though.
There's what you're saying. If Tyson Bagent were to be the future on this franchise, here's what would have to happen. You have to decide that Justin Fields is not as good as Tyson Bagent.
Sure.
You'd have to pass up on Drake May or Caleb Williams, arguably 2 very good prospects. Right. And neither of those things, or you bring in a rookie quarterback, they fail, and then Tyson Bagent becomes a quarterback after that. Like you would have to go through all 3 of those scenarios before Tyson Bagent would be the starting quarterback. Like you would have to pass up two very good quarterback prospects. You'd have to decide that Justin Fields is not as good and then come to this conclusion that Bagent is the future. Like, there is a 0% chance that they look at what's possible to them after the offseason and decide that the best option for the team going forwards is Tyson Bagent. It's a 0% chance.
Well, it's not zero.
It's zero.
It's not zero.
It's zero. You think it's a possibility that they would approach the end of the season, say, nah, let's move on from Justin Fields, who in his own right is sort of a unicorn at the position. Nah, let's pass on either Drake. And I have my own opinions on Drake May or Caleb Williams. I don't know how I feel about Williams after the last 2 games, but whatnot. Still probably better than Tyson Bagent as prospects, obviously. You'd have to pass up both of those.
I'm just not willing to say that it's a 0% chance. Like, it might
0.1.
be like a yes. Like, I'm not saying
okay,
I'm not,
fine.
Like,
I'll
I'm
give
saying
you
it's like a
1%
chance. Like, I'm not saying that it's likely, but it's not. It's especially with this organization, it's never zero.
Brian White in the chat.
Never zero.
I wonder how the New England Patriots fans were feeling when Brady became the starter. Again, there's differences here. Tom Brady was a decent college quarterback who went to the University of Michigan, who had better arm strength. And I'm sure they had the same opinions, but it's still a drastically different situation. Do not compare Tyson Bagent to the greatest quarterback. Tyson Bagent will not be Tom Brady.
To his point, though, like, we didn't know what Tom Brady, like, I mean, we were both very young at the time, but like, people
I was like 3, but
right. I was, yeah, exactly. I was like 4. So it's like, the point stands, though, is that we truly, I know that we all have our evaluations of Tyson Bagent. We don't think that he can reach it, but realistically, through 1 game of NFL action, we don't know his true ceiling. Like, it is kind of possibly within the range of outcomes that he could be awesome. Is it likely? No, but it is within the range of possibilities. So I think that, like, it's just an argument for argument's sake, like, he can't say it's 0 because we just don't know. We just don't. He didn't do anything yesterday that makes you immediately say, oh, he stinks. He's bad. Maybe he does have his limitations as an athlete. Was Brady the best athlete out there? No. So and I know, like you said, comparing Brady, who's gone on to be the best quarterback of all time and won like 1 billion rings and championships and oodles of success. Yes, in hindsight now, but everybody starts somewhere. All of these, these legends that are born all start somewhere. So it's not fair to Tyson Bagent, I think, to say, oh yeah, it's a 0% chance. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that you have to be open to the idea of it's at least possible. Is it likely? No. But there's a range of outcomes, and Tyson Bagent being really awesome is on that range.
I'll rephrase. It's a 0% chance in my eyes, or 0.1% chance that it happens with the Chicago Bears because of their situation. If the Bears were the New Orleans Saints, you're 3-4. You have a veteran quarterback. You have no draft picks.
Raiders.
And then, or the Raiders, right? Then it's a pretty good chance, honestly. But because of the Bears situation, it would be negligent to go forward thinking that is a long-term solution when you have better options, players with higher ceilings, players who could win Super Bowls, like potentially, available to you. It's just, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Tyson Bagent becoming good enough as a backup with the Bears that one of those teams takes a flight. One of those teams like the Saints or the Raiders who don't have draft capital, who are kind of looking for, a stopgap, guy to put in for a couple years, maybe see if he can prove himself, starter, and he goes out and wins 9 or 10 games. They build around him. Like, I'm not ruling out that possibility.
Sure.
But I just don't think, because of the Bears situation with the draft capital they have and with the other player that they have on the roster, that it's going to happen with them.
Sure.
And I'm not, again,
I would agree with that. I think that is correct.
I'm not being disrespectful to Tyson Bagent here. Like, I know Brian White saying you don't know what the future holds for Tyson Bagent. You're right. I don't. I could be completely wrong.
Sure.
There's a chance I am entirely wrong and he is him and he just goes on to another team and is great. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on to another team and is great. I just think with the Chicago Bears, with what is available to them, it is not possible that they come to terms on January 13th of this year when they miss the playoffs and say, that is the guy we're building around going forward. It would be negligent and it would be stupid, in my opinion. And if that was the case, so be it. Obviously, we rally around the kid. I just think right now, objectively, when you look at what's available to you,
seemingly have better options.
Sure.
I think that's fair. I think everything that you said is completely fair. Quick pivot, because I want to ask you something. Because I mean, like the Bears are going to have more than likely the Bears are going to have under center starting next year a rookie quarterback, whether that's Caleb Williams or Drake May or something. But I want to ask you, as you are famously an Ohio State grad, if the Bears draft JJ McCarthy, how are you going to take that?
It would be so Bears of them.
How are you going to come to grips with that?
I don't know.
He might be really good.
He might be. That throw he made outside
the 20.
That was a lazy.
Like what are your range of emotions going to be like as far as process? Like,
yeah, that's going to be rough for
if
me.
the Bears draft JJ McCarthy 1 overall, because let's say like Caleb Williams,
that's not gonna happen.
It might. He wins Heisman. He keeps on like this. You have your reservations about Drake May. Caleb Williams wants ownership stake, which is not going to happen. McCarthy's closing that gap. Bears select JJ McCarthy 1st overall to be the future quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Take me through that for you real quick. Your face right now is really funny.
Knife to the heart. Knife gets twisted. Deep dagger. No, people understand. People know that, yes, I believe Justin Fields can be great. A large reason of why I like him is because I went to the Ohio State University and watched him for multiple years and was on the sidelines watching him. Obviously that plays into it. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't the case. And I'd probably be lying if I said I wouldn't have some sort of feelings about JJ McCarthy because he went to the University of Michigan. It's hard for me because I really didn't think he was good.
Yeah.
And then this year, he is just playing really well, and it's just amazing to see the way he has.
Well, we kind of saw the stock start to rise last year.
Yeah, a little bit.
When he was splitting time with what's his face, McNamara.
McNamara.
That was that. I mean, Jim Harbaugh should be investigated for that. But no, Anyway, this is a different conversation.
Well, and I'll say this too, that if the coaching staff gets fired, the number one talking point will be,
that's what I was just gonna say.
Hire Jim Harbaugh, draft JJ McCarthy, and you know where JJ went to high school? Nazareth. You know where Nazareth is?
He went there for 2 years.
Well, you know where it is. It's
where it started.
30 minutes
where
south
the
of
legend
Chicago.
started.
And then Jake can be like, I went to high school with JJ McCarthy. Well, he wasn't in.
He was way
not
after
way
me.
before. I mean, he's what I guess he's probably only 22.
He was. No, he's 20.
Oh, he's 20.
So he was there. No. So maybe we did overlap for a year. Nobody cares about this because my sister is 4 years younger than me, and he was in a class with her freshman year. Was I gone already?
You would have been gone. You would have been in college.
Yes, because my freshman year at college was her freshman year at high school. Yeah, so no, there was no overlap.
You just get ready for that narrative.
My sister had a class with him.
Yeah, JJ McCarthy, Chicago kid.
I was literally gonna say that though. Bears draft McCarthy. Hire Jim Harbaugh. Pair him up.
I think I've already seen a tweet about it.
Probably, yeah. I can hear it now.
Forget the science and everything, but that's a funny scenario. But
I did already see the Jim Harbaugh tweets start.
They've
last
started.
Week, so.
And I will say, it's
not happening.
It's not going to happen. But the sign stealing thing does make it more of a possibility that he's going to have to walk away from Michigan and
everybody in college football steals.
I know, but not everybody gets caught. And when you get caught, it's a bad luck. I hope you're right, but I will say too, there's part of me, not necessarily with Jim Harbaugh, but when you're looking for the next coach, and say it is Justin Fields the quarterback next year, and obviously I want Ben Johnson. I want the young phenom rookie OC. But there is when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, this is the biggest case study. There's a lot of people who were not, pleased with that decision to go with the veteran guy who's won a Super Bowl and might be washed at this point in Doug Peterson. And I know the Bears have tried that theoretically with John Fox, but really different scenario, different roster, not a good quarterback, all those things. I don't know if I would hate them taking that route if it was the right candidate, right?
Sure.
If it was between Ben Johnson and another guy that's I'm trying to think of another name who would be available, whatever it may be.
Whoever's in
Miami. Say it's Belichick.
Oh,
say it's Belichick, right? Just throw it out there. Obviously, it'd have to be a trade at this point because they signed him to a multi-year contract extension, and I don't think you'd want to trade draft picks for Bill
apparently
Belichick.
Nobody knows how long it is either, which just makes me assume that it's for life. The man's 70-something.
Yeah, for life, whatever that may be. Until you break down Shula's record, that's the contingency in the contract, which he's 18 games away. But I wouldn't hate that in some situations. I know it's a really unpopular take, but you're
familiar with that though.
Yeah, unpopular takes. I'm very familiar with that, and that's partially my fault because I put it on myself. But that's what we do here. But I was watching that Thursday night game, and I was like, this team is composed, this team is well coached, and you look at like it's a risk to hire a young offense. Like if it works and it's Sean McVay, you're gonna win multiple Super Bowls probably. If it doesn't work, you're gonna crash and burn, and you're gonna do this. We've seen it with Matt Nagy, right? Or even with Brian Dable in New York. Like they might be entering that territory. So the Harbaugh thing made me think of that if it's the right candidate, I wouldn't necessarily hate it, especially with the way we've seen Justin Fields operate and what he may need from a coach and what this young roster may need. Yada, yada, yada. Conversations for the rest of the year. Let's talk a little bit more about this game. Let's talk about this real quick. Jalen Johnson.
Yep.
So here's the conversation.
Does he get traded?
Yeah. Pick 6. Another interception, 2-interception game.
And we talked about this last week. Ryan Poles does this. He did it with Robert Quinn. Got traded right away. Yeah. I think it was 2 days after they won their last game last season. Mm-hmm. And then Roquan Smith was traded a week later. And they had both had good games. Like Robert Quinn had famously owns the single season sack record for the Bears, which is still very funny. But honestly, if Jalen Johnson gets traded tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised. And here's the question I have for you. Does the game yesterday, best game as a Bear by far.
Yeah.
He's not known for getting takeaways. He got 2 of them.
That was the biggest knock on him.
Does it make it more likely that he gets traded or more likely that he gets a contract extension?
So I had this written down to talk about too. I don't know. I think it depends on how, I don't want to say desperate, how motivated a team is to acquire him after that. Like if you're the Jaguars and you see that and you're like, we need that because we have flaws and we need something like that. Or if you're pick, the Eagles or the Dolphins or whatever, we need that because that's going to take us over the hump. And then they call and say, we'll give you a 2nd round pick. Maybe. But if you're not getting the offers that you like, if you're Ryan Poles, now you are more motivated to, we talked about it. Corner is a premier position in the NFL. It is a position that you build around, in a position where if you have a star, that's going to take you a long way. So if you're Ryan Poles, the problem is now Jalen Johnson is walking in Ryan Poles' office today and being like, putting it all on the table. Like, how about that? So, and like I said, that was the biggest knock on him, the lack of takeaways. So Jalen Johnson's walking into the office today, say, I'll give you one more chance to pay me. Here's the number, but you don't want to meet it, then I'm walking away and I'll play out the rest of the year and I'll continue to ball out and you might just lose me for nothing. And then maybe that phone rings. Maybe it's Philadelphia. Maybe it's Miami. Maybe it's whoever. I don't know. Buffalo, whatever. Pick your playoff team. But I think it's all so ambiguous and so up to outside factors that I can't get a good feel. I don't know if you feel the same way or not.
That's the risk that you run is like you don't find a trade partner. You still don't get an extension done. He gets frustrated with that even after playing well. And he decides at the end of the year that no matter what you throw at me, even if you have the best contract offer, maybe he wants to go somewhere else. Maybe he doesn't like the direction of the franchise. Maybe he wants to go and win. He's still a really young player, but maybe he has seen nothing but losses in his career with the Bears. Maybe he wants to go somewhere and see some wins, and he's talked about, wanting to be here and he bought a house here and all that. But you just never know. I think
Jalen Johnson is 24, by the way.
24.
He'll be 25
he's really young, man. He's really young. I think yesterday's game makes it more likely that he stays with the Bears and gets a contract extension than he gets traded. And that's my belief. Sure. There's no telling what Ryan Poles' belief should be. But, you're looking at a player who, at this point, after 7 games of the first of his, 4th season in the NFL now?
Yeah.
Has
because it's the end of his rookie contract.
I think the fear for people with Jalen Johnson was always solid player, maybe no advancement in his career. Maybe he's just going to be
Injuries were a part of that.
Injuries were a part of that. Fear of regression. That's not happening. And what did you say?
Like Eddie Jackson.
Like Eddie Jackson, right? Fear of regression after the contract extension too for Eddie Jackson. And that happened. And that is 100% the case. Not the same player. You paid that guy a lot of money. He was the highest paid safety in the NFL for a period of time until Budda Baker, I think a day later got more money than him. But you're now seeing this year Jalen Johnson. Yeah, he had an injury for a couple of games, but sort of take steps in his career that make you believe that a contract extension could lead to this guy being a Pro Bowler, right? That he's worth the money that you pay him. And like I said in the preview episode, at some point, selling off assets looks good on paper because the potential player that you can get for it. But you got to keep players around if they're good. Players who are leaders. You got to build this team around something in each position room. And if you just show that year after year after year, you're just going to sell off and sell off and sell off, the moment a player starts to look really good, it's a really bad look for the team.
Yep.
It's not going to sit well with the locker room. I mean, this is a very likable guy. I think you run the risk of, like, even more than they probably already have, like, players losing faith in the front staff and the front office. Because how does that make, like, pending free agents feel?
Right.
How does that make it feel if you play well the rest of the season, but look what Jalen Johnson did when he played well, he immediately gets sold off. It's like there's no incentive to play well to stay around with the team.
And we talked about this last year with the Cole Kmet contract too. Like, you have to reward players for playing well, and that builds a locker room confidence like you're talking about.
Yeah. And Shane says, we have the money. It's not a problem.
Very famously, because he didn't spend it last offseason.
Yeah, not all of it. And you got the money. Keep Jalen Johnson around. That's a player you want to build around. This dude who's just
he's premier corners if you want to be a good NFL team.
And yeah, the Tyreek Stevenson thing. Oh, like, well, why would they draft Tyreek Stevenson then? Because they had nobody else. Who are they going to try it out if they didn't draft Tyreek Stevenson? It's not like he's the replacement for Jalen Johnson and you have other cornerbacks on the roster. No, you don't. Like, who starts for Jalen Johnson if he goes out? Terrell Smith is on IR.
Yep.
If he gets traded,
with also, how are we not talking about this? Terrell Smith on IR with mono.
Yeah, that's like, dude, mono will knock you out, bro.
But like, I've never had it, but like, it's like, it's just like always funny because like it just makes you think of like high school and college, where like why people are getting mono. So it just makes me laugh when like a grown ass man gets mono.
He's in these streets, bro. Terrell Smith in these streets.
Jay like me for real.
But yeah, like 6 weeks. That is crazy.
It's tough. Anyway,
really crazy.
No, you're right.
Jalen Johnson, please, or Ryan Poles, please pay the man, keep him with the team. And it would be really cool to see if like he got paid today,
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
If you just like, hey, you played really well, prove yourself. We were looking for turnovers. You got 2 of them. Yeah, it's Brian Hoyer. Guess what? Here's your check. like let's do that for once. Let's reward good performances.
Sure. I agree with that. I think Mooney's on his way out though.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's
that,
no spot for this team.
Especially with the way that Tyler Scott has kind of not emerged, but been worked into the offense more in the last couple of weeks. It seems like the writing's on the wall.
And they look like very similar players, right? Kind of same backstories too.
Well.
Sort of smaller school, but same traits, late round draft pick, all this. And I think Mooney's could still end up being a pretty good receiver if he goes to a different team. But for some reason, they're just not getting him involved in the offense as much. And
it seems like he's been phased out. And Tyler Scott, 3 targets, 2 catches, 2 carries against the Raiders. Was involved in the game before against the Vikings as well. So it seems like they're trying to work him in more. Yeah, Vikings, a couple targets, couple catches, 4 targets against the Vikings, 2 catches, a couple rush attempts. So it seems like Tyler Scott is being worked in more, and Darnell Mooney is being phased out a little bit, which sucks, and that's just kind of the way things go.
Yeah, I know it does. And like, let's not forget, guys, this was a player who was an 1,000-yard receiver a couple years ago. Like Darnell Mooney is no scrub, and it's probably a little bit of an indictment on the coaching staff that he's not more involved. I mean, this is a good player that we thought could reach potential WR1 status last year as the guy. Obviously, it wasn't the case. He's just not equipped to be the guy on a team, but still a very solid wide receiver too. And I just, you could probably, if you trade him away, I don't know if they'll trade him at the deadline. I mean,
well,
I guess
he's
they
also
have to.
a free agent.
I guess they
so,
have to.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. My bad. Kansas City Chiefs,
cool.
Like they might give him a 4th rounder for Darnell Mooney. The Chargers, maybe with
that makes a lot of sense. Actually, the Chargers.
Because let's see.
Quentin Johnston has not been good, and Keenan Allen's a million years old, and Mike Williams is gone. So like,
and you get a good look at him.
I'm gonna get ahead of my bold predictions for Wednesday now. I bet you Darnell Mooney gets traded around a week from now
to the Chargers
within the next 10 days. Yeah, to the Chargers.
What's the return for a player like Darnell Mooney? Is the 4th round pick too much?
Probably? Yeah, wait, 6th.
Sixth.
He hasn't played.
Yeah, he hasn't played. Can't ask for a 4th.
Right. You get a 6th at best, probably. But that's going to be my bold prediction. I'm going to call my shot now. Darnell Mooney gets traded after the Chargers game to the Chargers.
I know we haven't talked about this, but Ryan Poles does trades, and we always think it's one way or the other. Is there any potential they trade for a player? Danielle Hunter.
The only
asking to be traded. Not asking, but
right. So it'd have to be something like, or like Chase Young, who is due for a contract now after this season. So it'd have to be like, all right, Chase Young, you really like what you see from him. You get him in for half a season, get him comfortable, and then hopefully that gives you some like extra ground to work out a contract with him. It'd have to be something like that.
Is Danielle Hunter also waiting for a contract extension? Is that the situation with the Vikings?
For like 30 seconds, I'll tell you.
Yeah, because that's the only scenario, right? Is if you get a younger player who you still believe can be here for multiple years after this year, because you're not trading anyone to win you games for the next 10 games, right? You're not doing that. You're looking for a younger player who will come to a different situation, hopefully look like the best version of themselves here, which it rarely happens, and then sign them to a contract extension for the next 4 years. Say, hey,
Danielle Hunter has 2 more seasons on his contract that run through his age 31 season.
I don't think they would trade for him then. That doesn't
unless you think you can be good next year.
Unless you think you can be good next year and you can get him pretty cheap.
But also like division rival, it's probably not happening.
Yeah, I know, but the Vikings famously, or the Lions famously traded TJ Hawkinson to the Vikings. There's some precedent for it. And that's just looking like an unbelievable trade for the Lions considering how good Sam Laporta has looked. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Other notes from this game. I was actually surprised how packed Soldier Field was. That's just a little note when I'm looking at the ESPN.
One of the last nice days, though, probably.
Yeah, that you're not going to get many people wanting to go to these games when it's a
winnable game.
When it's cold. Yeah, winnable game.
Winnable game, nicer day. Like,
you want to talk about indictments on the coaching staff. Yeah, we could do this all day. Why the hell? Like, let's not forget. Deonta Foreman in yesterday's game, 16 carries, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.6 average. And this is a bad, Raiders rush defense. We talked about that. This guy was a healthy scratch for 4 weeks.
Yep.
He's the best running back on the roster.
Probably.
Not probably. He is. Healthy scratch for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Travis Homer, you're going to play over Deonta Foreman. Khalil Herbert, sure, comparable, but you're going to get all the snaps. Roschon Johnson, rookie, who's looked fine. Obviously, was out with injury.
To get him carries.
Deonta Foreman was a healthy scratch for the first 4 weeks of the season. You paid the guy money in the offseason. Yep. Healthy scratch. First game he plays with a full load. He has 30 fantasy points. Looks unbelievable. 3 touchdowns. Had receiving touchdown. Yeah, let's add 31 yards on 3 receptions, 10.3 average, and a touchdown. What the F? Healthy scratch for 4 weeks? This guy probably could have helped your team a little bit.
Probably, yeah. It's just, like you said, an indictment on the coaching staff that they possibly don't know who their best players are or how to use them. We can talk about it all day, like you said.
It's
Cole Kmet, 0 receptions yesterday in a short passing game. I mean, you won the game, so whatever, but like, how does that happen? I get you get these wacky one-off games, but like, seriously? I don't know. So no, you're right. I mean, it's an indictment on the coaching staff. Continued, bona fide. They don't know. Not only do they not know how to use their most talented players, they might not know who their most talented players are.
Yeah, I don't think.
Would you be surprised? Like, let's say, just to close this out real quick, Darnell Mooney gets traded to the Chargers. Would anyone be surprised if he immediately forms a connection with Justin Herbert and is awesome the rest of the year?
I would trade for him in fantasy. I mean, no, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. So it's just, and again, back to what I was saying, like, it's things like that where the coaching staff just doesn't have a lot of ground to stand on as far as trying to make a case to keep their jobs at the end of the year. And that's going to be something, another part of it. So it's just something to consider. Again, I don't think that this coaching staff is safe unless they win out, probably. Mm-hmm. But, that's it. And that's, if we can see it, you got to hope that Ryan Poles can see it. 100%. So that's just what you have to pin your hopes on. But hey, for kind of a weird episode for a win, wasn't as much of a celebration, but there was a lot to discuss.
There was a celebration.
But yeah.
Let me ask you before we close.
Go ahead.
Real quick. Were you upset the Bears won? Like I'm not upset, but like, was it in the back of your mind, like, damn, we might have been better off losing the game? Because I don't want to
back of my mind. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to feel that way though. I'm not, and I don't feel that way, but I think it's rational.
It doesn't feel good to root for losses. It would have made me more upset if all the teams that you're competing with in the tank hadn't also, like, a couple other teams won as well.
All of them won.
So, like, you're
won.
good.
Broncos,
right?
Panthers had the bye, but doesn't matter.
Right. So, like, Panthers won, Giants won, New England won. So, like, if those teams had lost, I would have been more upset. But it was a wacky week in the NFL. So chalk it up to that. Screw it. That's fine. And end of the day, you're still holding the top 2 of the top 3 picks right now. That's fine. I'll take that.
I think
morale win, whatever.
Yeah, for the sake of my mood, man. Yes, I had a decent Sunday yesterday because the Bears won. Like, I was having a good little day, and now you got a little bit of excitement going into Sunday Night Football. Can they beat the Chargers on the road? I almost thought before the season, I thought about going in this game. I wanted to go to LA, but once we were,
you did say that. I do remember you talking about this.
If Fields were still the starter and they were like 4-2 going to this game, oh my God, I'd be on a flight on Thursday getting out there because I also just want to see SoFi, and that would be so cool. But yeah, we'll have to gauge the excitement level of this game because, like, I'll be honest, I wasn't excited to watch yesterday's game, really.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I wasn't.
You knew it was going to be ugly.
Like, I was more excited to see the Browns win and Survivor for me to keep my hopes for a hell lot of money alive. Oh yeah, real quick, Jay Capone to Don. The Packers are bad.
They're bad.
Are the Bears better than the Packers at this point?
Probably not, just because they have the coaching advantage still.
Yeah,
and like they still have like Aaron Jones, Christian Watson.
Yeah,
but they're bad. They are bad. I will agree with that. They're bad. They're a bad football team.
I've said this about 8 times. Last question before we head out. Who ends the year with a better record, Bears or Packers?
I'm going to say Packers because I need to will that into existence because I don't need them having a higher draft pick than the Bears and taking one of these quarterbacks.
You think that's going to happen?
Jordan Love might be bad.
He is bad.
Yeah.
But for as much as they've like committed to him, I guess. I mean, I guess it's not a commitment, but like
it's been 1 year. See you later.
Okay. I don't know.
They'll
draft a guy in the 4th round.
I'd much rather they be stuck with Jordan Love for another year than giving them a chance at Drake May.
So let him win 7 games.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. 100%.
I think the Bears win more games this year than the Packers. I got to look at their schedule, but I think the Packers are done with playing the bad teams. Is that why? Is that an outrageous thing for me to say?
Probably. No, I'm already now
anticipating
the Packers picking out of the Bears, getting one of these quarterbacks, and the Bears being forced to pick somebody else, and then the guy that the Bears end up pick sucks, and the Packers get McCarthy, and he's awesome.
The Green Bay Packers next 6 games: at home against the Vikings, could lose that game. At home against the Rams, probably would lose that game. On the road against the Steelers, loss. At home against the Chargers, loss. On the road against the Lions, loss. At home against the Chiefs, loss. They have a very tough schedule for the next 6 games. There's a chance the Vikings are 3-4 after tonight. There's a chance they can beat the Niners. If you listen to this on Monday and they get shellacked by 30, I'm going to look like a fucking idiot. But that fear, we got to start worrying about that fear of the Packers bottoming out and taking a quarterback.
add one more thing to the list. Awesome. All right. I'm done with this. All right. This has been Bears Nation Podcast. Appreciate all the comments, all the views, all the listeners. You guys are the best, as always. Say it every week and keep saying it because it's true. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday for our preview episode, for our bold predictions, for our QB predictions. You know the drill. So come back. Wednesday, we'll be here to break down Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. Maybe we'll have some clarity about the quarterback. Who knows? But until then, for myself, for Kevin, this has been Bears Nation Podcast. And as always,